inaugurations. If it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
Kamala, you're fired.
I say, bring it on.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill. We know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Happy Friday and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham here in Washington, D.C. Pressing stories on tap today, including Donald Trump's bizarre press conference and the latest updates on the race for the White House. But before that, let's get you caught up on the latest headlines. Ukrainian forces push further into the southwestern Russian region of Kursk as locals urge Vladimir Putin to send reinforcements. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his troops are making Moscow feel the consequences of war. The World Health Organization considers declaring the Mpox outbreak in Central Africa an international public health emergency. This as the Democratic Republic of the Congo reports more than 14,000 cases. Japan issues the first ever warning of a megaquake, forcing Prime Minister Fumio Kishida to cancel his visit to Central Asia. Scientists estimate Japan could witness an earthquake with magnitudes greater than 9 on the Richter scale. This just a day after the country experienced a 7.1 magnitude earthquake. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro blocked social media platform X in the country for the next 10 days. Maduro accuses X's owner Elon Musk of inciting hate and civil war in the Latin American country. And a new study by the Cleveland Clinic in the United States reveals that artificial sweeteners containing erythritol more than double the risk of blood clots and heart disease. Experts say these sweeteners are found in everything from soda drinks to chewing gum to even baked goods. We begin with the race for the White House. Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump launched a volley of verbal attacks against his Democratic rival Kamala Harris. Hosting a press conference at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, the ex-president repeatedly called Vice President Harris incompetent and accused her of being disrespectful towards her ethnicity. The GOP presidential nominee also said that his campaign was prepared for President Joe Biden and will now have to change tactics against Harris.
We have somebody that hasn't received one vote for president, and she's running, and that's fine with me. But we were given Joe Biden, and now we're given somebody else. And I think, frankly, I'd rather be running against somebody else. I haven't recalibrated strategy at all. It's the same policies, open borders, weak on crime. I think she's worse than Biden, because he got forced into the position. She was there long before. She destroyed San Francisco. She destroyed California as the AG.
Trump then went on to take pot shots at the Democrat as he evaded questions about how exactly he would prepare to take on the Kamala Harris-Tim Walz duo.
Kamala, who, by the way, is worse than Biden, and she's actually not as smart. Okay? She's actually not as smart. That's hard to believe, isn't it?
And when asked about recent nationwide polls that show Kamala Harris leading the race by 5 points, the former president conveniently blamed the lead on gender politics.
Well, she's a woman. She represents certain groups of people. But I will say this. When people find out about her, I think she'll be much less. And I see it right now. I see her going way down in the polls now.
Also, when asked about the massive crowds he was seeing at her rallies, Donald Trump said that he pulled the best and biggest crowds in the United States and compared himself to civil rights icon Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Spoken to the biggest crowds. Nobody's spoken to crowds bigger than me. If you look at Martin Luther King, when he did his speech, his great speech, and you look at ours, same real estate, same everything, same number of people, if not, we had more. And they said he had 1 million people, but I had 25,000 people. But when you look at the exact same picture, and everything's the same because it was the fountains, the whole thing, all the way back to from Lincoln to Washington, and you look at it, and you look at the picture of his crowd, my crowd, we actually had more people. They said I had 25,000, and he had 1 million people, and I'm okay with it because I liked Dr. Martin Luther King.
Now, after weeks of refusing to debate Kamala Harris, Trump has finally agreed to debate the vice president on the 10th of September, a debate previously agreed to by the Trump campaign and hosted by ABC News. However, the Republican proposed at least 3 more debates in September, to which Kamala Harris said she was open to them after the September 10 debate. Now, during the press conference, the GOP nominee continued his rant against President Biden and Vice President Harris as he criticized their tenure in the White House. He claimed the Biden administration was pushing the United States towards an economic depression and setting the stage for a possible world war.
I think that our country is right now in the most dangerous position it's ever been in from an economic standpoint, from a safety standpoint. You could end up in a depression of the 1929 variety, which would be a devastating thing, took many years, took decades to recover from it. And we're very close to that, and we're very close to a world war. In my opinion, we're very close to a world war. We have people that don't know how to handle it.
Now that Trump has given in to a debate with the vice president after initially saying he wouldn't, perhaps the one-on-one will be an opportunity for the convicted felon to finally blunt the growing momentum Harris has been building since President Joe Biden exited the race. One thing is for certain, for a man obsessed with crowd sizes, Trump can expect a massive television audience when they do finally meet face to face. And moving to the Middle East, where tensions are escalating rapidly, in a surprise move, a senior Biden administration official warned Iran that it would face significant consequences if it chooses to strike Israel. The official highlighted the substantial military reinforcements that have been deployed to the region, including the arrival of F-22 fighter jets. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said that Washington is not sure what Iran is thinking when it comes to a retaliation against Israel, but they would hope the country would not want to see the wider region spiral out of control.
As we've said for several days now, and it's been the focus of our diplomatic engagements, is we continue to make clear to Iran that they should not escalate this conflict, they should not take any further escalatory steps, that those steps are not in their interests, they're not in the interests of the wider region, and that is a point we will continue to impress in all of our diplomatic engagements in the region.
When commenting on the newly appointed Hamas chief Yahya Sinwar, Miller even categorized Sinwar as a brutal terrorist who helped mastermind the attack on Israel on October 7th and added that he, quote, has blood on his hands, end quote.
Sinwar is a brutal terrorist with blood on his hands, including the blood of American citizens, and not just American citizens, but citizens of many countries around the world. So remember, it's not just citizens of Israel that were killed on October 7th. There were citizens of multiple countries, as I said, including the United States. That is true. It is also true that he continues to be the person that calls the shots for Hamas, and that was true before the death of the leader of the political leader of Hamas.
Now, amid fears of the crisis leading to an even greater war, a diplomatic push is gaining momentum. The United States, Egypt, and Qatar have jointly called for urgent negotiations between Israel and Hamas. These talks, scheduled for August 15th, are set to take place in either Doha or Cairo to finalize a ceasefire and hostage release deal. Now, following this, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said in a statement that a negotiating team will be dispatched to finalize the details of for implementing the framework agreement. However, the road to peace remains fraught with challenges. Saudi Arabia on Wednesday blamed Israel for the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. And speaking for the first time since Haniyeh's killing, the Saudi kingdom described it as a serious infringement on Iran's sovereignty. With Iran poised to respond, and a new, more radical leader at the helm of Hamas, the coming days could determine the future of the entire region. And in Latin America, the Brazilian Foreign Ministry has expelled Nicaragua's ambassador in a tit-for-tat response to a similar move by the Central American country. Brasilia said the Nicaraguan envoy had already left the country, while Nicaragua said ambassadors of both nations have left their positions. Now, this comes as souring relations between the formerly allied left-wing governments deepen into a fresh diplomatic feud. 2 weeks ago, Nicaragua's government protested that the Brazilian ambassador skipped an official ceremony in the capital city of Managua. The celebration on July 19th marked the 45th anniversary of the Sandinista revolution that eventually led to Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega's coming to power in the 1980s. Local media reported that Brazil's ambassador was not the only diplomat absent from the event. Nevertheless, Nicaragua asked him to leave the country, leaving Brazil to reciprocate on Thursday. A rift between Ortega and Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has grown over the last year. Once a firm supporter, Lula steered away from Ortega after the Nicaraguan president ignored a request from Pope Francis to stop his repression against Catholic clergymen. Last June, Lula tried to mediate talks between Ortega and Pope Francis to help secure the release of a jailed bishop, but it did not get a positive outcome. Their relations further declined with disagreements over Venezuela's disputed presidential election results last month. While the Brazilian president refused to accept Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's re-election and demanded transparency, Nicaraguan leader Ortega, on the other hand, extended his congratulations to Maduro for securing a third term. Brazil has frozen relations with Nicaragua, which means a complete halt to meetings between the leaders and envoys of the two nations. Brasilia was already keeping relations with Nicaragua at a bare minimum, as the Brazilian ambassador was residing in Managua only to deal with the needs of citizens from his country. And now we turn to Asia, where China is urging its nationals to shame Taiwanese leaders online. The Chinese Communist Party has launched web pages about senior Taiwanese officials, including their vice president, labeling them as quote-unquote diehard secessionists. With this move, Beijing hopes to assert more control over the self-governed island, at least on the internet. Here's our report on the latest standoff.
China has intensified its campaign to intimidate Taiwan, taking new steps that reveal the seriousness of its intentions. This week, the Chinese government launched a series of web pages aimed at identifying and denouncing those it calls diehard secessionists. These pages, established by China's Taiwan Affairs Office and the Ministry of Public Security, list 10 prominent Taiwanese figures, current and former officials, whom Beijing has labeled as the key architects of Taiwan's independence movement. Prominent on these pages is an email address inviting citizens to report any clues and crimes linked to these officials, as well as others who might be involved in what Beijing views as serious offences against the state. The move represents an escalation in China's long-standing effort to assert control over Taiwan, despite Taiwan's self-governance and the clear opposition of its people to Chinese rule. The names listed on the site are also significant. Among them are Taiwan's Vice President Xiaobhi Kim, a key figure in Taiwan's diplomatic efforts. Joseph Wu, the former foreign minister and now head of Taiwan's National Security Council, who has long been a vocal critic of Beijing's policies. And Wu's deputy, Lin Faifan, a former student leader of Taiwan's Sunflower Movement, who opposed closer ties with China. These names, although not new, were previously announced in 2021 and 2022, are now placed on an online platform that explicitly calls for public action against them. This shift reflects Beijing's broader strategy to create an environment of fear and suspicion in Taiwan and to demonstrate to the world its resolve to bring Taiwan under its control. The campaign is also backed by a recent shift in Chinese legal policy. Back in June, the Chinese Communist Party declared that the quote-unquote ringleaders of Taiwan's independence efforts could face the death penalty under Chinese law. Beijing issued new guidelines instructing courts, prosecutors and security bodies to take severe action against those promoting Taiwan's independence, framing it as a defense of China's national sovereignty and territorial integrity. Taiwan's government, however, responded with firm rejection. Taiwanese leaders again ascertained that Chinese laws have no jurisdiction over Taiwan and that the island, with its democratically elected government, operates entirely independently of Beijing. Responding to the new web pages, Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council urged Taiwanese citizens not to be intimidated. They emphasized that the Chinese Communist Party's threats, while loud, hold no power over Taiwan's people.
And finally, avocados are known as the green gold of Mexico, but the fruit has led to deforestation of more than 70,000 acres in an effort to feed the rapidly growing demand in the United States. In fact, reports say American importers are sourcing avocados from illegal Mexican orchards and supplying them to major U.S. supermarkets, including Walmart, Target, and Trader Joe's. Our final report takes you inside Mexico's destructive $3 billion avocado industry.
Avocado, a velvety, nutty fruit with a hint of sweetness. From guacamole dip to creamy pasta, you can make almost everything out of it. Avocados contain healthy fats, antioxidants, vitamins and minerals. And this superfood has become a staple in American kitchens over the years. But the growing demand of the green gold in the United States is draining natural resources in neighboring Mexico. According to the latest report by the Climate Rights International and Guardian Forestal, Mexico exports avocados worth $3 billion every year. And this may have led to the deforestation of more than 70,000 acres over the past decade.
About 8 or 10 years ago, it was pure wilderness here. It was just as you see the forest over there. It reached a field we call charco. This was all wilderness. But the avocado producers came in and logged everything, and now they have avocado orchards.
The environmental horror is evident in these satellite pictures that show the same pieces of land over time. Most of this land has been cleared illegally by setting forest fires, which is also a crime in the South American country. And the worst affected Mexican states are Michoacán and Jalisco, which are officially permitted to participate in the avocado business. It is worth noting that the Mexican law also requires an environmental impact study and permit to store and use water for avocado farming. However, government data shows that very few reservoirs and wells are registered with permits in Mexico's avocado heartland. The report includes some other shocking revelations as well. There are 4 leading American avocado importers that continue to source from Mexican orchards containing illegally deforested land. These suppliers provide avocados to major US supermarket chains, including Walmart, Trader Joe's, Target, Costco, and Whole Foods.
So far, no large Mexican or American supermarkets have approached us, the government of Michoacán, to discuss this issue. These large multinational chains need to take larger responsibility because they are both in Mexico and the United States, such as Walmart. They should be concerned that the avocados they sell comply with the environmental and labor certifications. This is a large business. It's a business of $3 billion.
2 of the avocado importers are now facing lawsuits in New York for labeling the Mexican fruit sustainable and responsibly sourced. Moreover, the flourishing avocado trade has also attracted crime syndicates in Mexico that extort payments from producers and forcefully displace locals to deforest the land. There are over 30 recorded cases of such intimidation, including 5 deadly shootings and 4 kidnappings. Avocado exports in the US have soared over 48% since 2019. The US market accounts for about 80% of Mexico's avocado exports, and Mexico's production volume of this fruit is forecast to grow 5% this year. So Americans, The next time you think of enjoying a Mexican avocado, just be aware that you might be buying a fruit that has caused deforestation and violent exploitation of Mexico's forests.
That's our show for today. We certainly thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you right back here next week. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
Kamala, you're fired.
I say, bring it on.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill. We know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis